Hello, scientists. It is Mrs. Kodish hosting here today. You are going to watch me do an experiment. I have my trusty helper. Her name is Isabella, and she's going to help me do this experiment. You could do this at home. You can do this at home with parent permission, of course. We're going to be going over the layers of the atmosphere. You have in your distribution bag this handy little packet, and so we're going to talk about how to use this packet, how to cut it out, and how to make this project in just a little bit. All right, so I'm going to use this to guide my experiment. Here we go. All right, so in this experiment, you will see the different layers of the atmosphere, and I will very briefly give you an idea of what they or where they are around our Earth. Okay. So as you learned yesterday in your reading, there's 5 layers of the atmosphere. We're starting off with some dirt. You see the dirt? That is a symbol of the Earth. That is a symbol of the Earth, okay? And then we're going to add another layer to this, which would be our first layer of our atmosphere called the troposphere. Troposphere. And so to be able to do that, we're going to use, so this first layer is the Earth. The second layer, or the first thing is the Earth. The first layer of the atmosphere is called, as I said before, the troposphere. And this is where we live. This is the air we breathe. And this is where the weather happens. And so to demonstrate or to show troposphere, we're going to put in some honey. And so my trusty assistant will pour, pinch, 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 pour. So you can see the different layers, pour. I don't think we're going to want to eat this later on. Keep going, girlfriend. Keep going. Perfect. Okay, so the troposphere is next. Again, that is where the weather that we breathe, the weather we see is made. So you can see the honey is separated, so you can see it surrounding the Earth. The next layer is called the stratosphere. The stratosphere is where planes fly. They fly above the clouds so that they don't get caught in weather, because we know that clouds carry the weather with them. And so to demonstrate the stratosphere, we are going to be using corn syrup. And so this is the Karo corn syrup, and you'll watch how she puts that in there. Maybe this will help so you can see the difference in the layers. Go ahead, my handy assistant. So we probably should have put some, you'll see it separate in just a little bit, the honey and the corn syrup. We probably should have put a food coloring in that so you could see the difference. But again, this is called the stratosphere. And again, this is where airplanes fly just above the clouds. All right. So you can see some air bubbles in there. But it probably wouldn't be very easy to breathe way up there, but you can see a couple air bubbles. When people climb really, really high on mountains, like Mount Everest, the air gets thinner and thinner as you go up higher and higher. It's harder to breathe because you just have those small air bubbles up there. All righty. So then the next layer is called the mesosphere. And this is the coldest layer. It protects the Earth from meteors. We'll show you a picture of a meteor in just a few minutes. So the meteors our Earth is protected from those coming from space and coming into the Earth and destroying our property here in our Earth. So, yep, we're going to use any kind of dish soap will do. We're all first timers here, and this is the first time we've tried this experiment. So we're really crossing our fingers it'll work and that you can try it at home. Some of these layers might have been fun to add some food coloring to. That's good, handy assistant, because then you could really, really tell. So now we have the earth, the troposphere, which is the honey, the stratosphere, which is the Karo syrup, and the mesosphere, which is, again, the coldest layer. That's why we did it white. It symbolizes cold like snow. It protects the earth from meteors coming in and hitting our earth. And then the next layer is called the thermosphere around the earth. And the thermosphere is where, I don't know if you've ever heard of the northern lights. The northern lights are seen in the thermosphere. So you can see a picture of that right now. These northern lights are found in this layer. So to demonstrate that layer of the earth, of the atmosphere, excuse me, we are going to use water. And this water we have dyed with blue food coloring. Go ahead, handy assistant. Pour, pour, pour. That's okay. We have a tray. Pour, 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 pour. Excellent. Stop.
All of it?
Nope, that's it. Nice job, handy assistant. Will you take that, my lovely lady? All right. You can just put that on the floor. Thank you, lovely lady. All right. So again, the white is like the coldest layer, and that's the mesosphere. Now this is the thermosphere, which again is where the northern lights, or another word for it is aurora borealis, is found. And again, that's aurora borealis is northern lights. So you can kind of see the Karo syrup has separated from the honey. And then the soap will probably separate from the water a little bit. You'll see that. And bubbles, yeah. And then the last and final layer is called the exosphere. The exosphere is where most satellites orbit. The most satellites are found there. Enter Earth, space, enter space through here. So satellites are these kind of looking guys, and they are sent up in space to send us information about what is seen up there. They take big pictures of the Earth from way far away. And so they're used for many reasons that we don't have to go over today, but these are satellites that we send way up in space. All right, and again, aurora borealis is here. And so our last layer, we're going to represent with oil. Now this oil we dyed pink. But you'll see that food coloring doesn't really mix in with oil. So this will be kind of a neat little experiment to see the layers that this forms. So she's pouring it in ever so gently. And it looks like the color went right into the water. See, first timers. And so anyway, you can kind of see, even though it added to the blue, which obviously made purple, it's so pretty. You can see that top layer kind of looks like stars. Well, think about that as being the outermost layer of the atmosphere where the stars are, where the satellites are, where the satellites are. So you can clearly see the different layers of the atmosphere. And just think, we're down here on the Earth, but we have all these layers protecting us. So that's pretty cool. And again, this is something that you could try at home. Let's look at what a meteor looks like. All right, I'm going to show you a little video of meteors. I think this is really fascinating that we have rock and metal out in the atmosphere, out in space. And as it is flying through to us, through these layers of the atmosphere, they burn up. And we actually are really protected from these things through the mesosphere layer. The mesosphere layer was the dish soap we had here in our lovely experiment. the dish soap that was there. Okay, so let's watch a little video about that. All right. This guy's excited. Oops. I need to share so that you can hear my sound. How many times does Mrs. Kodish do that? Here we go.
Sight, enjoy, and in they come. The best way to watch
about a
a
meteor shower.
If you can, go to a darker sky sight. Enjoy the peace of that. Have patience.
That are burned out.
Be fully dark adapted. Keep your car headlights off.
Our atmosphere.
Don't stare at your phone. That'll ruin your own dark
adaptation
adaptation as well as everybody else's.
If they survive.
Let the show begin.
All right, here's our show. There's a really neat little video that explains some of this. Obviously, you don't have to know a lot of this, but I thought it was really cute, so I wanted to share it.
Space rocks. Our solar system is a vast and fascinating place. Between Mars and Jupiter, we find the asteroid belt. Due to the mighty gravitational effects of Jupiter, these chunks of rock and metal couldn't come together to form a planet, and instead made up a solar junkyard of sorts. This is a crowded place to be an asteroid. Sometimes they collide with each other and get knocked off course and even out of the belt altogether on a very different journey through the solar system. There are lots of names associated with space rocks, so what's the difference? Well, the bigger rocks are called asteroids. The smaller are meteoroids. And when they fly through the Earth's atmosphere, they're called meteors. If they manage to survive their burning descent through our atmosphere and land on Earth, we call them meteorites. Some meteorites contain iron, which makes them very dense, dark, and magnetic. They are the oldest thing you could ever touch, as they are the same age as the solar system. The gas giant Jupiter marks a boundary in the solar system called the snowline, beyond which objects contain a lot of ice. Past the other three gas giants, we find a huge ring of ice chunks, large and small, called the Kuiper Belt, where the dwarf planet Pluto lives. Even more of these ancient, dirty snowballs exist in a huge bubble called the Oort cloud. These icy objects can get bumped off course sometimes to become comets that journey past the planets towards the sun. Some collide with other objects and get smashed to bits. Others head towards the sun and form long, beautiful tails as their icy surfaces warm up. Here they will either fall into the sun, never to be seen again, or they will survive and speed back home beyond the snowline. Here on Earth, we are treated to spectacular natural firework displays in the sky from orbiting comets. As they get close to the sun, they burp, splutter, and crumble, leaving behind a trail of debris. At certain times of the year, the Earth plows through these trails and bits of comet flare up as they fly through our sky and become meteors. The early Earth was hit by thousands of comets and asteroids. It is thought they brought water to our world. Comets may have also brought the ingredients of life to the Earth, and the European Rosetta mission could help us unlock secrets.
Okay, so you don't have to know about all of that. But I hope you were able to learn a few things about our awesome layers of the atmosphere that help to protect us and keep us safe. And that if you were ever an astronaut, you would remember to go, you'd go all through all of these layers until you were finally out in space. So you'd have to go all through these layers. If you ever watch a space movie while they're orbiting space, they're going into space, you will see that they have a really hot layer, and then there's a really cold layer, and that is the mesosphere. And then they are finally out in space. All right, so you can do this at home. I hope you learned something. And oh, one more thing, excuse me. This activity that is in your distribution bag, I would like you, and you obviously will have to split it apart, but you cut out this I guess square kind of round thing, and then you're going to glue this on top of this one. Glue this on top of this one, and you can color these layers whatever color you want, just as I used colors in our experiment today. You can color these. And you also remember that you need to cut these strips so that you can pull one back and read what that layer is all about. All right, if you have any questions, just go in to my tutor time and I'd be happy to help you out. Thanks, scientists, and be well.